Hey guys, it's Francisca. Thanks for joining me for today's video. I'm super excited to interview Darius Bashar. If you are somebody who's looking for a way to jumpstart your creative flow and be in a community of fellow creators who can support and celebrate each other, well, then Artist Morning might just be for you. Darius Bashar is a portrait photographer, he's a podcaster and a writer, but before any of that, Darius is a soul having a human experience. So join me as I interview Darius for today's video. Hey Darius, how's it going?
Hey, how you doing?
I am doing amazing. I am so glad that you agreed to interview with me because I have been wanting to interview you for probably since I met you, and that may come as a surprise.
I'm thrilled to be here. I love podcast conversations, especially with humans I love. So I'm so excited.
Well, that's so great. So I know Darius from the Artist Morning, and the Artist Morning is a really great space and container to help people connect and to meditate and to journal. And I'd love to get into how you came about the idea of Artist Morning. But before we do that, I'd like to kind of go back a bit. I'd like to kind of go back to your story and how you got into meditating because it's really interesting to me. And I would love for you to kind of go back in time and tell us about maybe your first time meditating and how it became a daily habit for you.
Okay, we're going back in time. The truth is, my mom is a very persistent Middle Eastern woman who is very much into spirituality. So ever since I could remember, she's been into like everything from Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra, Tony Robbins, Robin Sharma, like all of these guys. And she got really into meditation at a certain point. And so she is, like I said, a very persistent human being and knew the value and the merit of meditation and spirituality. And she decided to put it upon herself to encourage me in any way possible. So she started bribing me. It's like, like exactly what a normal parent would do. And she did it with meditation. She did it with personal development stuff. And, I think it started with like Tony Robbins, and she'd be like, okay, listen to this thing. It's amazing. Like, I'm like 16, 17, 18, like, come on, get out of here. And then eventually, she brought out some money and said, I'll give you $20 if you listen to this tape. And I said, "Oh, deal. Absolutely. Let's do it." And I thought I was smart. I started listening. I passed out very quick and early. And I'm like, give me the money. I did it. And she's like, there's a pop quiz I didn't know about. So she quizzed me. I failed and I didn't get the money. But something of that message got into my head, and she did the same thing with meditation, and she was into all sorts of different meditation practices. And I don't know what like 17, 18-year-olds are like now, but it wasn't that interesting to me. But she was persistent to this day. I'm 38 years old and she's still like sending me stuff and telling me to do it. And most times the stuff she sends are amazing. Like the stuff she's all over right now is Dr. Joe Dispenza. So she'll send it. And sometimes I think it's hard for kids with their parents. You're like, especially when they're a bit forceful, but it's so funny because Jen, my partner, who she'll send me the same thing a couple of weeks later and but like softer. And I'm like, oh, this is so great. I should pay attention to this thing. So yeah, it's a it's a it's an interesting approach, but it's an effective one because even if you get 1% of that thing into your brain, it can make an impact. Because all these years later, I'm running a meditation community and making guided meditations every week. So something definitely seeped into my unconscious, and that seed has been growing ever since.
That's amazing. I think I know that the first time I meditated, I fell asleep too, but I didn't start meditating till I was in my 30s.
Mm.
So that is one thing that we have in common, that we both fell asleep the first time we meditated. And how cool is it to have a mom? Probably you didn't think so at the time, but how cool is it to have a mom who's into all of this personal development stuff like Dr. Joe Dispenza and Wayne Dyer and all of that stuff. So I think when you grow up with something like that, you're not really paying attention to it because it's like I guess, take it for granted. Like it's there and you're like, yeah, I'm not into that. And I can see that as a 17-year-old or 16-year-old being like, yeah, that's not my deal. That's not my deal. But one of the things that you said that I really love is how the universe really pounds things into our head and it kind of like beats us over the head with it. And so, like, if your mom sends you something, then your partner Jen, suggested a couple of weeks later, the universe is just like, hey, dude, you need to really check this stuff out. Like, there's something in here for you. Um,
Yeah.
I love that. How did it become commonplace for you though? Because like from 16 to 38, now you're doing it. What's your practice like? And then how did you make it become a practice?
So back then, it was every once in a while I would listen to something that my mom would give me. In my 20s, she got into and then I got into, are you familiar with Holosync?
No.
It's, not binary, binormy, like, it's basically the science of manipulating your brain waves for enhanced meditative states.
Oh, wow.
Uh, and so, like, they play music, and in one ear, it's at one frequency, in one ear, it's another, and it creates artificially, but still creates an alpha, beta, delta, theta brain frequency, for specific purposes. And so, very expensive program. She got into, me and my business partner at the time, who were like, there was her other son, basically working out of her like basement building a business. She gave us these tapes. I believe they were tapes at the time. And so we kind of got obsessed with that in our early 20s. Very, very powerful stuff. Meditating for like, started at 30 minutes and then it got to like an hour and a half twice a day.
Wow.
It was really intense. um, and then the truth is, I think I fell into the dark side of the law of attraction, the secret, the like, just sit and meditate and everything will change.
Mm,
And it didn't.
yeah.
But you kind of like, light and love bullshit it. I'm just gonna, it's great. I'm rich. I'm prosperous. I'm amazing. And you're just yelling it, but your core is not taking it in. It's not believing it. And so things started to go not well from a business standpoint, and I just bullshitted and like, nope, nope, it's great, it's great. Law of attraction, law of attraction, law of attraction, law of attraction, but like, just like, not willing to sit with the discomfort that was actually going on and go all the way through. Um, and things fell apart. Things fell apart. And then I kind of grew to resent meditation and spirituality and God.
Mm,
Um, And then I went through like a darker period because I was just full human at that point. No
mm,
more soul having a human experience. And it took me, say that happened when I was like 25, 26. It took me like 10 years. 10 years of like darkness, of like the the Darius, is very different in that 10 years. He was very pessimistic because he was jaded and hurt. He was, resentful of his creative ideas because he had them and they came and nothing happened,
mm.
So he's like, "Fuck you, like, I don't want these ideas, they're garbage, what am I gonna do with them? I just keep saying I'm gonna do stuff, but I don't actually ever do anything." Um, And it took me a very long time to get back into spirituality and meditation. It took me like it's only been like 4 years now, 3 years now.
Yeah. No, that resonates so much. And I think that so many people, when they start learning about law of attraction, when they start learning that they can, in fact, change their state of mind, that, they do a lot of spiritual bypassing, which is what definitely what you're talking about. You're like, yeah, I can, I can
Yeah,
create anything I want, but then we don't pay attention to, like you have to feel good all the time, but we also don't pay attention to you have to feel everything, and
nailed it.
so it's natural that you would have been resentful of your creativity and you would have like shoved that deep down inside because you couldn't produce and you weren't producing because you weren't really feeling that, you weren't really vibrationally in sync with that, and you couldn't be vibrationally in sync with it because you were doing a lot of spiritual bypassing, spiritual bullshitting, and I can resonate with that 100% because it's only been 3 years for me that I've been meditating daily too. I started meditating in 2012, but I was high and drunk when I was meditating sometimes, and I just like meditate to get myself down. And
Mm,
so I also understand what it's like to, like lose faith in everything and feel like, what the fuck is the point of anything? And I'm just gonna numb and, just get drunk or do drugs and stuff like that. Did you also have a period where you were numbing and kind of forcing your creativity down because, you were tired of it and tired of things not coming to fruition?
hmm. Not like that. I had a period where I was numbing, but not because I was trying to quiet my creativity. I was numbing because I had all these feelings and I had no tool or framework for expressing them.
Mm,
And I'm not sure what it's like to be a woman. I know what it's like to be a man. And sensitivity is especially in my 20s, so like 10 years ago, was not looked upon well. It's
yeah.
like stop being a pussy, stop being a baby, stop being a little bitch, like man up. And it's like, okay, I'm not gonna talk about that stuff. I feel lost. I feel trapped. I feel like this is not my life. I feel this is someone else's life. I'm actually really anxious and stressed. And I have no one to talk to because this is not what we talk about with my guy friends and my family. And I didn't have therapy and I didn't have meditation and I didn't have men's groups like I have now. So I drank and I did drugs and it was just like, I don't want to feel these things. This is great. I have a couple of drinks and I don't feel these things anymore.
Mhm.
But then the drinks go away. Either you continue drinking and that's a bad strategy, um, to drink forever, or you stop at some point and then everything feels exponentially worse. It just exacerbates. And so I didn't know what to do because I remember like working this job that paid amazing, had the condo, had the girlfriend, had the dog, had everything was incredible. And I remember going to the parking lot after everyone left work and just sitting in the car. And I also, because of like some childhood trauma, I didn't cry for 20 something years, like not a single tear. And I didn't know that was weird because I didn't talk about it with guys because guys didn't talk about openly crying at the time. And so it was like I even crying I couldn't do. And so I was just like punching the steering wheel, miserable, like whose fucking life is this? And like I said, yeah, like you had a couple drinks and then the feeling would go away and you'd feel happy for a very short period of time. And you want to prolong that. So you find any other substance or person or distraction to prolong that experience. But at some point it goes away and everything's just worse.
Yeah, that makes so much sense because when you're not used to opening up, to anybody, you can't open up to even yourself. And so when you can't open up to yourself, you don't have those feelings available to you. And so it makes sense, especially I don't know what it's like to be a man. I but I do know what it's like to be a Mexican girl who, my mom always said, pon los pies sobre la tierra, which means put your feet on the ground and stop dreaming. Quit
Mm,
dreaming, come back to reality. Um, in a loose translation, a direct translation is put your feet on the ground. But in Mexican culture, you're not supposed to go out to a therapist. You're not supposed to see a therapist. You're not supposed to talk about your feelings. You're not supposed to do that kind of stuff. You're supposed to work. You
yep.
work and you get things done. And if you need to cry, you go somewhere else and do it because nobody wants to see it. Nobody wants to see it. And so I definitely understand what it's like to stifle your feelings and to, not have anybody to share that with because it's really tough when you don't. Um, and I think that sometimes what happens is because you're not used to expressing yourself, you suppress your creative self too.
Yeah.
And that's at least what I experienced. But it makes sense that you would, have like all these things that are supposed to make you happy. You have the condo, you have the girlfriend, you have the dog, you have the job, but you're not fulfilled internally. And, that can be really frustrating when all you want to do is feel good and you just can't. There isn't any way to access that except for, drinking or using some kind of substance or something outside of yourself.
Yeah.
And it isn't when you until you get in touch with yourself that you can actually, express yourself in that way. What do you think took you from being that person who was so miserable and unhappy, and I don't wanna say, like, so miserable and unhappy, but, going through those dark times.
I was
What do you
so miserable and unhappy. That's
you were
a
I
fair
understand.
synopsis of the situation.
Yeah, and then when you stop long enough to evaluate anything or to, like, have feelings, like, without any type of, dopamine inducing drugs or alcohol, then, yeah, it feels like shit because then you feel all your shit, which is why meditating probably didn't feel good at all. I know that's why it didn't feel good for me, because then when I stopped long enough, I was like, "Oh, that's when the depressing stuff comes. That's when the hurt, like gets piled on. That's when you're like, oh shit, I feel like crap." Um, so what was it that actually helped you like get into this space where you're now able to access your inner self and be like a free person?
Death. Yeah.
Death. Oh gosh, tell me about that because I know all about that. Tell me because I don't know this story.
The catalyst for my spiritual birth, my spiritual like breakout was dying 1,000 times. What I mean by that is 3 summers ago, my beloved Aunt Shala got cancer. And I know like everyone is touched by cancer in some way. And for me, I guess I lived like a very sheltered life or something. I had never experienced any death in the family, any cancer in the family. I've heard about it, obviously. I know all these friends of friends, and she got cancer, and we were incredibly close, like past lives close, you know?
Hmm.
Like the day I learned about her cancer, I had a dream that night that she had cancer and I was speaking at her funeral, giving a eulogy. I woke up completely like terrified. I checked my phone and my mom was like, "Your Aunt Child is in the hospital. They think she has cancer." I'm like, "What the fuck? What? How?" Like, and there's no signs of anything. And then 3.5 years later, I'm giving the eulogy at her funeral and it's like so strange. But at that time, I remember having this one thought that changed everything in my life. And it was, holy shit, I love summer so much. and this might be the last summer of her life. And then it was like, and then that thought just spiraled to like, this might be the last summer of my life. You never know when it's the last summer. And then that spiraled into, holy shit, there's a last breath, and it like personified last breath out there. He's looking for me, and he could find me in 50 years from now, or he can find me 50 minutes from now. I don't know. Nobody knows. And that idea permeated every cell of me. I couldn't stop thinking about that. And it wasn't a sad thought. It wasn't a depressing thought. It was the most beautiful, powerful, joyful experience because it gave me full presence and appreciation of life. And so I somehow started meditating again. And then I started journaling, and I started my own artist morning by myself 3 years ago before I knew what the artist's way, before I knew about breath work, before I knew anything. And I would wake up really early because I could feel God's connection. And I would have my coffee, have my little meditation, do a little yoga. And at the end of yoga on the ground, before the light came out, I would do 3 deep breaths, not knowing I was accessing breath work. This is before I met Jen, before she knew breath work, before all of it. And I would just wanted to feel it. The third breath, I would just and be like, last breath. And on the ground with my eyes closed, I just like would scan and I would imagine what my last breath would be like. I'd be auditioning. I'd try to imagine people around me. And I was just scanning my body, and I wanted my body to feel the intensity of that's it. This is the last one we get. And I would scan my body in that rehearsal last moment of life to see if I was smiling. If I was smiling, I knew I had taken all the photos. I had said all the words. I had danced all the dances. I had, just lived my life fully. And if I wasn't smiling, I knew there was life left inside my heart that I needed to express. And so at the end of this, I would go take photos for free, forget money. I just needed to take photos because I felt as if last breath was going to knock on my door very objectively and just be like, hey, D, how's it going? We got to take your laptop now. We're going to take your camera now. Oh, those are the last words you could write. You should have wrote them. You didn't write them. Sorry, dude. And I was like, shit, I got stuff. There's stuff, and it didn't feel bad. It didn't feel scary. It didn't feel, it was scarcity because there's a scarcity of time, but it was the most productive, positive, joy filled, God filled, scarcity I'd ever experienced. And that in hindsight was the beginnings of the artist morning. Just by myself, this guy who was afraid to call himself an artist at the time in the morning, expressing, creating, feeling all the way.
That's so that's so interesting to hear because I mean, there's nothing like death to really pull people into some fucking action. Like it really it's there's something about like realizing that you may not have as much time as you think. Like when we're going around not feeling, not tapping into ourselves, there's this kind of infinite sadness that happens and we're just like, "Oh, I always have access to this sadness," even though that's not what we're like, I guess, thinking about. But when we realize that there is some time constraint on things, then that kind of puts a fire under our butts to like move a little bit more. And I can see how you would feel like, okay, I need it's an intrinsic thing, right? That moved you. It's an internal thing that moved you to want to start, tapping back into this tool that you had that your mother had given you years ago, tapping back into moving your body and being aware of how you're feeling and breathing.
Mhm.
I certainly can like before I even got into breath work the way that I'm doing breath work now, I was tapping into my breath too, and I wasn't aware that that's what I was doing. I was also doing a gratitude journal. I wasn't aware that that was part of my like a morning routine, but I had a morning routine where I would meditate. I would do yoga too, and I would write in my gratitude journal. I'd write like 15 things I'm grateful for. And I think that these tools are always inside of us. We just don't know how to access them. And it isn't until we can stop and get still that we can start accessing these tools and the universe speaks through us, or God, whatever it is that you call it. I think we're talking about the same thing that moves through us. And it's like, hey, you have these tools. Try to breathe, access this autonomic system that you have.
Yeah, I think it's so great that, and it's such a obvious for me sign of intelligent design, that the most powerful tools are accessible to us for absolutely free,
Yeah.
and they're not sophisticated.
No.
You know, like the creators knew, like very simple breathing that's absolutely free can help you access this next dimension. Like, take a breath, put your hand on your heart. Anyone can do that and just feel into what's real. And it's a portal into God. Like, you don't need tech, you don't need sophisticated concepts and academia. Like, you have it all right there. I think that's a really cool indication of intelligent design. The other thing, as you were talking about the limitations of time and their effect on productivity, it's like so aligned with creation and innovation and artistry and timelines. Nothing gets done until you give the artist a deadline. Nothing gets done until you say, this is the canvas. This is not the canvas. This is it, right? There's something, everyone's always talking about abundance, abundance, abundance. I love abundance. And scarcity is really important.
Yeah.
There's a noble scarcity that exists,
Yeah.
that is a limitation, that we are not here forever. Get off your fucking ass and do the thing you want to do. What are you waiting for? So again, it proves my belief that we are all artists and our greatest masterpiece is our life. We are creating that every moment.
Yeah, our masterpiece is our life. I mean, it, one of the things I need to highlight that you just said that really got me excited was that the thing about not having a timeline, because then the universe doesn't have anything to work with. Once you once you say this is the clay I'm going to work with, this is the canvas I'm going to paint on, this is the paper I'm going to write on, this is the blog I'm going to post, this is the podcast, this is a channel I'm going to launch. The universe can't help give you those ideas, and it can't help generate that productivity and that movement until you actually make that choice. And then the universe says, are you sure? Are you sure that's what you want to do? So I love that. And I love that it's something that I think it's the going back to the trap of getting stuck in the law of attraction stuff, because I love law of attraction, but I also can see how people can get like mired in the, oh, you always have to be happy and you always have to be at this level, and not feeling everything and not
Mhm.
knowing that yes, we are souls having a human experience, but the important thing to remember is that we are having an experience. Like, we are here. Like,
Yeah,
here
we're
is where
having
we
a
are.
human experience. If you are trying to bypass the experience to just go straight to soul, you're missing the point. You know? It's
Yeah.
like you're on this roller coaster ride and you're like, "I'm just gonna keep my eyes closed and stay with my soul and not experience the feelings of the scariness and the thrill." It's like, you chose to get on this ride. Humans feel fear and they feel anxiousness and they feel jealousy, and like, those are, like, me, I say this all the time, those are the colors.
Yeah.
The colors that we get to paint with, and as a creator, I want access to all of the colors and I want to experience every single one at least once.
Yeah.
but I don't need to color with that one color that is jealousy every single day necessarily. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love how you say that, you believe that we're all creators and all artists, because
Mhm.
it's true, we are. And I think that for so long, I had this idea of an artist or a creator being somebody like a professional writer is somebody who writes and sells books. Like you can't just write in your notebook and call yourself a writer. You can't just paint in your free time and paint whatever and call yourself a painter. That's not what a painter is. That's not what an art that what a writer is. That's not what an artist is. You have to be, your paintings have to hang in a gallery for you to call yourself a painter. Your books have to be published. Your stories have to be out there for you to call yourself a writer. And
Mhm.
so it wasn't around until around a few years back when I started meditating, when I started journaling, when I started, realizing that I was actually more than what I was calling myself. And that a name is just a name, anyways. The label was just a label. What I was doing was really expressing myself. And anytime you express yourself, anytime that you can share and you can be vulnerable and you can be open and real and soften, that's art in itself right there, and I didn't understand that for so long. How did you come to that understanding?
Around artistry,
Yeah.
I'll let you know when I get there. I've had a really weird relationship with the word artist.
Mhm.
Um, the more I try to intellectually understand it, the further away I get from it. Uh, what do I know about it so far after thousands of hours of consideration? I know, I know I resonate with the word creator a little more than artist. I know for the past few years, lots of people love to call me an artist, and it for most of that time weirded me out because I'm like, what is that? I don't know what that is. Am I an artist? What makes an artist? I know it's a word that certain people gravitate towards with a strong sense of identity, and other people don't. And they're like, what is that? I'm not that. I'm not worthy of that. I know that it's a completely made up thing, just like everything. There's no such thing as a Darius. There's no such thing as 6:42 p.m. That's not a thing. That's a thing humans made up so that we can, if I just went around being like, "Hi, I'm," and you're, it'd be hard for us to communicate. But
Right.
we forget that there's no such thing as a man or a woman. There's no such thing as a Mexican or a Persian. There's no such thing as Mexico or Iran. That these aren't things. We claimed them and we said them, and then we forgot that we made them up.
Yeah.
It's okay to have them. It's really good. We can speak better and communicate better, but forgetting that we made them up and then believing they are absolute truths is very complicated and creates tension. And so it's a made up thing. Um, it's hilarious that I run a group called Artist Morning, and I have this weird relationship with it. Uh, I believe what you said was really true, that for me, anytime you go deep into your heart and find a truth and find the courage to bring it out and share it publicly with the world, whatever publicly means to you, that is art. I can vibe and resonate with art a little differently than artist, you know? And so all of us that are willing to do that, we're artists.
Yeah.
And I have no fucking clue what an artist is. Both of those are true.
I love it. I love it because when I wanted to join Artist Morning, I was like, wait, do I qualify? Like, and then you said creator, and I was like, that one makes sense to me. The creator part makes sense to me. And, because it's true, like the, I guess the hesitation around being called an artist, being called even a writer or a painter or any of those things, or a guitar player or a singer
Or a photographer, right?
or
Like,
a
I'm like,
photographer.
when at what point there's no certification. There's no, like, you graduated like a doctor. So I remember going through that from the photographer standpoint, like, at what point am I a photographer? At what point am I a professional photographer? At what, you know? And I think I had the luxury of going through that with that particular thing, and then there's a point where you forgot. You're like, is it your first check? Is it your first 50,000, 100,000, million? Like, when do you know? And then you realize nobody knows shit. Everyone's making it up. You can call yourself whatever the hell you want. It's kinda like walking into a building that has security. If you walk in with enough confidence, you're good.
Yeah.
Right? If you're like, I'm an art, just own the shit and you're good.
Yeah, no, it's so true because it isn't until you believe something yourself, and not because you're bullshitting yourself, and not because you're you're telling yourself all these lies and you're not in integrity. It isn't until you actually feel what you're feeling and own it, and you say, yeah, this is who I am. This is part of me, and not who I am, but this is what I do.
Yeah.
This is what I can't help but to do, you know? And I think that's a distinction that I also understood for myself, is like, I can't help but to do it. Like, everything in me is telling me to do it. And I'm getting outside synchronous, signals to do this thing, you know? And it's when stuff like that happens that I can see, like, we're capturing magic, or we're creating that container for magic, which is what I think Artist Morning really helps a lot of people do.
Mhm.
It creates a container, a safe container at that, where we can share and we can be vulnerable and we can be these people who can hold space for each other, as well as, open up and evolve just a little bit more and just create just a little bit more in whatever format that is.
Yeah.
So I'd love to talk about Artist Morning. It's the
Sure.
way that I know you, and I believe it was synchronous magic that led me to listen to your meditation and just like fall in love with the group. And it's just an amazing space and I love it. But I'd love for you to share how the idea of Artist Morning came about, even though you had your own Artist Morning practice years ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
tell us about that.
Sure. Uh, I don't know, have you ever heard of this thing, COVID-19? Have you heard of it? Yeah? A little bit, a little bit?
I kind of heard about
Okay,
this
okay, okay,
little
okay, okay, okay.
pandemic that was going
Just checking,
on.
just checking, just checking. So my photography art business was doing really well last year. Things were going great. I was like finally stepping into like, okay, fine, I'm an artist. This is cool. This is, I think I get it. And then COVID happens, and the first few days there was like a deep panic because I went from like doing so well to like, what? All of it is shut. How can I take pictures of people if, huh? And for 2 days, and we'd just come back from Costa Rica doing these photo shoots in this beautiful place. It was amazing. And to like 14-day mandatory stay in the loft. You're not allowed to legally leave lockdown. And in my head, I always go through this. Like, my cycle is like, it's going to be great. I'm going to have all this extra time to do stuff. And then 2 days later, like, oh my God. I think maybe I was watching too much Handmaid's Tale. And oh my God, so terrifying. And so I convinced myself for just a few days, but it was really intense, that basically art is done. I got to go get a factory job. Not that there's anything wrong with factory jobs, but that's very different than what I was doing at the time. I'm like, I guess it's just over. I guess sell all my art stuff and forget this expression stuff. And it was just like pure panic, like that dark core wound panic place. And then I fell back to the only thing I knew what to do, which was meditate. Thank God for mom and her bribing skills back in the day. And I started meditating and I started journaling. And at the time I was doing the Artist's Way, Julia Cameron's Artist's Way with the journaling. And every time I would meditate and journal, the download, the whisper I was getting was other people need to meditate and write too. You know, like this is helpful. There's other creators out there that need that. And up until the 14th day, the last day of my lockdown, my quarantine, I could just kind of like meditated for 2 hours and the thing just got stronger and stronger of what like there's other people that need this. I'm like, dude, what why can't you give me an idea that could grow my photography business? What the hell is meditation and journaling gonna do? Like, how am I gonna pay the bills? I don't understand. And so the 14th day, I just gave up. I said, fuck it, fine. Come, what do you got? Give me the download. Let's just, okay, cool. And I journaled. Okay, this is what it is. Okay, cool, 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 cool. The next day, I went into like this dizzy state. Um, I came up with the name. I made a logo. I got a domain. I got the copy done. I made 2 meditations. Made an application form. I like the entire thing was made in 24 hours and online live. Like the hosting connected somehow in less than 24 hours. I'm like, whoa. And then for 2 weeks, I didn't tell a soul a single thing. It just sat there privately. No one knew until I listened to this one podcast by this guy, Adam Roa, and this guy, uh, Preston Smiles. And Preston is a provocative thought leader he loves shit disturbing. And he was just like, if you spiritual motherfuckers are out there meditating and reikiing and ayahuascaing and journaling, and you're like, I just gonna sit alone and just feel and just express and just be on my own. He's like, fuck you. You bypassing fuckers. Like you're just gonna just feel on your own. What have you been doing? You've been building this spiritual muscle for what? For this. Get off your ass, stop isolating, stop being privileged and all on your own, and share the work, share the spiritual, tools. I was like, oh my God, is he talking directly to me? Like, this is like a message exactly to Darius. Literally, I listened to that, was so triggered in the best way possible. And the next day I finally went public and I'm like, I made this thing. It's going to start Monday. Who wants to come? And then people started applying and submitting or like signing up. And that's how Artist Morning started.
It's so cool how the universe can beat us over the head with things and just like, hey, you've got to do this thing. And then you hear this podcast or, these people saying, talking directly to you, or you feel like they're talking directly to you. Because I think it's easy for us to stay inside. It's easy for us to stay, close to our hearts. It's
Yeah.
so easy. It,
And it started with a whisper
hmm
like, Artist Morning. Other people need to. And then it was like, Artist Morning. Yodi. Artist Morning. Okay, he's not getting it. Let's manifest into this like really cool, stylish black dude from California, and like let's let him trigger the shit out of this bearded brown man. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, it's it's so powerful when we can first of all listen. That's the first step. Like we have to get quiet enough to listen, right? And then even when we get the message, we're like, but that's not how I want it? And that's the thing about the synchronous magic is what happens is that it's better than we could have ever even imagined. It's 10 times, 100 times, a million times more than what we could have ever dreamed up on our own. And that's how we know it's this thing that's not coming from us. At least that's the experience that I've had with these ideas that like I'm like that doesn't make any sense, like it doesn't make any sense that I'm going to learn how to play guitar and then ultimately learn breath work, through guitar from meditation. Like the universe doesn't work that way. God doesn't work that way. It takes us through the path of least resistance in a way that we don't even know, um, to create these amazing things. And I think the thing that's most amazing about it is all of the unraveling that comes from one small idea, one small whisper, like, hey, you have to share this. Hey, you have to share this. And then it becomes louder and louder and louder. And then we get to have these intricate connections that we would have never even dreamed of. What is your favorite thing about, or three favorite things about the artist morning?
Hmm. One thing is seeing people from all over the world, many of which don't. And Lillian just showed up on my screen here. You can't see it. I have 3 screens and they're like 2,000 plus photos I've taken and they randomly just go through. So you and her who are in love, she loves you so
I
much.
love Lil.
She loves you so much, but you've never been in the same room together.
Mm-mm.
But you guys love each other.
Yep.
And seeing like we are doing podcasts and you're going to podcast with other people, like seeing people come together in community to create and hold space for each other, especially when I'm not even there, like outside of the group, gives me so much joy. um I really really love like creating. There's this moment in the summer where it clicked. I didn't understand what artist morning was. And it's like, whoa, what if I'm the artist and it's my morning and I'm making art and these people all want to be a part of it and co make it with me? And that just clicked into me that it's like, whoa, I've made a scenario where, and this is the scenario in which I thrive the most, where I tap into my weakness of being a people pleaser
Mm.
and I create a noble version of it where there's 30, 40 of you waiting for me every Wednesday and Friday. And so like I could easily sleep in, except I can't because there's 30 or 40 people that I would do the opposite of people please. So when I've created all these scenarios in my life where there's someone waiting for me at a certain point, accountability. And so the experience of making a meditation every day is such an intense experience because I have no clue what the meditation tomorrow is going to be. And so I've got to trust my morning ritual of like I'm gonna wake up at 4 a.m. I'm gonna do my bulletproof coffee, my 30 minutes of me meditation, my yoga, my journaling, my stretching, my thumping, my all the stuff I do to open myself up and then just sit and just feel what's there. And then give myself like 60 minutes to like write it, recite it, record it, edit it, ship it, and get it ready. It's like such a crazy marathon, but for some reason, this human loves it, loves the experience of it, and then loves that there's a thing that exists after. It's with you guys. It can leave an impact with you guys. And then it goes to YouTube, and then sometimes thousands of people listen to it. And so there's something about that that just like there's people messaging me from all over the world now, literally like everywhere, talking to me about how I'm in their ears in the morning meditating with them. And I'm like, this is so cool. I'm making friends with people that I don't even know. So there's something about that that's just like so amazing. Um, and then I think I really like the two more things. I know you said three.
Tell me all the things.
The when we log in and I can literally feel the chemicals, the dopamine it's like I see all your faces and I'm like, I love you, 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 I love you. Oh my God. I don't even know you and I love you. You're new. This is so cool. Like I can feel it's like drugs. If you've done drugs, like you do the drug, oh my God, it's kicking in. So there's like a huge high in the first few minutes. It's like I'm getting hugs and the world needs so many hugs right now. And then the secret eye gaze.
Ah,
We do a secret eye gaze, and I have no idea how you guys feel, but my feelings are so intense in the most beautiful way during the secret eye gaze. Every time full body goosebumps. There's so many things I love. Yeah, I feel it's like one of the best things happening in my life right now that was Darius 365 days ago could not fathom that that was going to happen because COVID had not happened yet.
yeah.
And that wasn't even on my radar. So it's like such a wonderful reminder of there's so many surprising, beautiful things in store for you in your life that you have no fucking clue about.
Yeah. I love it because it's true. There are so many things in our lives that we have no idea that are going to happen. And if we like even try to look into the future, try to look into what things will be like, or try to force things to be something, we're doing ourselves a disservice because it's really not up to us. It's up to us to show up. It's up to us to be open. It's up to us to be vulnerable. But we show up, we do the work, and we have to let go of the result. We have to let go of what it will be or what it will look like. That's not really up to us. But I just really enjoy this conversation and I wish we could talk for a longer time. But I know you've got other commitments. And so I would just like to, two more things. The first thing is if there's anything you feel like we haven't covered, anything you feel like you'd like for people to know about you, about Darius, about this person having um, this soul person here, this amazing, beautiful person here having this human experience. What is it that you would like for people to know about you? And then the second thing is, where can people find you?
I'll start in reverse order. You could find me in two places everywhere on the net, either Darius Bashar at anything. So DariusBashar .com, Instagram, YouTube, wherever. And then Artist Morning is the artistmorning.com or at Artist Morning on Instagram or YouTube. And the thing I want people to know that they might not know about me is this beard only looks like this because I have a epic beard comb. So I just want you to know your beard can look like this too. I've made like a trend of like just combing my beard every podcast I've been on in 2021. I think I'm gonna just like one day I wish I could just like chill in there. But guys, beard combs. Get yourself a beard comb if you're serious about your beard protocol. I think that's it.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Darius. And I'll see you tomorrow on Artist Morning.
Yay. Thanks so much for having me. This was a ton of fun. And I love your face.
I love your face too. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Darius as much as I enjoyed having that time with him. As he said, you can find him by going to Artist Morning or Darius Bashar at anything. Darius is an amazing person. And if you want to come meditate and journal with us, just go to artistmorning.com and he'll send you the link for the meditations. He's on Wednesdays and Fridays. And if you want to hear from me on a weekly basis, you can sign up for my newsletter. The information is in the description box below. And if any of this resonated with you, if you have any questions for me or Darius, be sure to put them in the comments. And that's it for now. Till next time, see ya. Bye.